Are tassels a hassle? Well, hopefully after this tutorial you won't find it a hassle to add tassels to the end of your scarves. Last week I showed you how to add the classic fringe, and today we're going to learn how to add some little tassels like these. So for my scarf, I'm going to add 3 tassels to each end. I'm using this random yarn, I have no idea what it is. You'll also want a pair of scissors, a crochet hook. The size doesn't really matter, I just find a smaller hook is easier. So this is a 3.25mm size D hook. And then you'll want something to size your tassels around. So a random container is great for this. I'm going to use my Contigo water bottle. It's also helpful to have a trash can nearby just because we do a little bit of trimming and it can create a lot of yarn fuzz. So I'm going to take my sizer here and I'm going to wrap my yarn around this container several times. Now, how many times you wrap around doesn't really matter. What does matter is that you wrap around the same number each time so all your tassels are the same size. I'm arbitrarily going to wrap mine around 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to cut my tail and slide my yarn off of my container. You do want a container that does not get wider or else you won't be able to slide your yarn off. So now I have this yarn loop and I'm going to fold it in half with these 2 tails at one end. And then if you want your tassels to be really long, you would stop here, but I want to make mine shorter. So I'm going to fold this whole bundle in half one more time. About like this. Nothing fancy. And you can also use a clothespin to help hold it together if your yarn wants to spring apart. Then we need to cut a nice long piece of yarn. Doesn't need to be super long, just long enough so it's easy to work with. And we're going to set our little yarn bundle on top of the long piece we just cut. And then we're going to tie a knot with our yarn tail. And I'm tying just a basic overhand knot. And I'm going to cinch this up like so. At this point, I like to tie 2 knots just so it's really secure. Now, once I've tied my knot, I'm going to run these 2 tail pieces through the loops at the top. So I'm just going to go in from the right side to the left side, and I'll pick one of these tails and I'll use my crochet hook to pull it through all the loops. Now the other side, flip it over, then I'll run my crochet hook through the loops at the top in the other direction. Grab my other long tail, catch it on my hook, and pull it through. At this point, it's just about ready to be tied onto our scarf, but of course, we want to have tassels, not these messy loops. So I'm going to go through with my scissors, and this part really is best if you do it over a trash can. It makes cleanup a lot easier. I'm just going to cut all the loops open, then I'm going to pinch it all down and trim it to all be the same length. And now you have your first little tassel made. I'm going to repeat the process to make 2 more and then I'll show you how we connect them. Now that I've made my 3 tassels, it is time to attach them. Really, you can attach these however you want, but I'll show you how I like to add them on. So I'm going to come in a little bit from the end and run my crochet hook through there. Take one of the tails of my first tassel and pull it through the end of the scarf. And then I'm going to tie a knot with my 2 tail ends, but I'm going to keep the knot kind of on the side of the tassel. You can make it really loose if you want your tassels to hang down, or you can cinch it way up tight. But either way, I want my knot to end up by the side of the tassel versus in the middle or up the top here. I'm going to leave just a little bit of hanging, but not too much. And then once I've got it adjusted where I want, I'm going to tie a second knot. Again, these are just little overhand knots, nothing fancy. So now it's fastened on there, we want to hide these tails. So we're going to get out our crochet hook again, and we're going to come up through the bottom where these tassel ends are, and come up through the loop, and come out near the knot. And then I'm going to use my hook to catch these 2 tail ends of yarn, and then pull them down through my tassel. And basically pull them down to be with all the other tassels. Lastly, I just need to trim them so they're the same length as all my other little tassels. And that's our first tassel attached. So I'll show you one more. So I'm going to find about middle, about the center, run my hook through, catch one of the tail pieces from my tassel, and pull it on up through. Again, now I'm going to tie 2 overhand knots. So this is my first one. And again, the first one I want to position it right by the top of my tassel. You can do that by pulling up on the right tail piece. Leave as much or as little slack as you want, and once you get it positioned, tie a second knot to secure it in place. And then to hide these tails, we're going to run our hook through this loop and out through the side there. So come up right through there. It might be a little tricky. That's why I like using the small hook. And then catch it with your crochet hook and pull it down through. Might take a little bit of effort, but you'll get it. And here we see these tail pieces coming out the bottom. Just pulling them through. And then I'm just going to trim them to be the same length as all these other tassel pieces. So I've got one more to attach and I'll show you the finished scarf. And here's how the scarf looks once we add the tassels. I think this look is so cute. This will look adorable for a little girl scarf, but honestly, I would still wear a scarf with tassels. So if you have reservations about adding a tassel, just know that you won't be the only adult out there wearing a scarf with tassels. And again, this is another super simple way to customize your scarves and make them truly your own. So I hope y'all have been having fun with this little mini series. I've got 2 more videos, so make sure you check back next week when I post the next video, where I'll show you another way to decorate the tail ends of your scarf. But until then, stay safe and happy crafting.